We begin tonight with the approval for the decentralization of police operations by the National Economic Council to improve access to information and intelligence. After the National Economic Council meeting presided over by the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mugunu, says the government is trying to resolve the interagency issues to find lasting solutions to the security crisis. The Council is also examining the legality of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission investigating the security votes of some of the state governors. Our correspondent Gloria Umezuki reports.
The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, presides over the National Economic Council meeting at the Presidential Villa. One of the issues discussed at the closed-door meeting is the decentralization of police operations.
The council decided that a committee would be set up with representation from each political zone to be chaired by the Inspector General of Police, so that we'll find ways of decentralizing police operations so that there will be greater access to information, and handling these situations will become much easier rather than a centralized and cumbersome approach.
The lack of coordination among security agencies is also being addressed, while there was an appeal to sustain the current military operations, which has reduced insecurity in some parts of the country.
The confidence to return to their various homes is not yet guaranteed. But honestly, there is significant improvement. The killings are a lot less. And so what we are saying is that we should not be in a hurry to remove Operation Wellstroke from Benue State.
The federal government is also asking states to remit 41 billion naira outstanding value-added tax.
The outstanding due to the state of about 41 billion that he believed the states will have to pay, and come up also with a new technique and system that will help automatic collection and when the contractors are paid for both VAT and withholding tax.
The Jigawa governor explains measures by the council to optimize the contributions of micro, small and medium enterprises, which has hit 37 million to boost the nation's economy. In the meantime, state governors have agreed to work more closely with security agencies to deal firmly with existing threats, even as the federal government is planning to decentralize police operations to deepen its fight against insecurity, just months away from the 2019 general elections. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, a new report by the United Nations has identified extortion, charitable donations, smuggling, remittances and kidnapping as part of ways the Boko Haram terrorist group is being funded. And this is coming after several efforts by the federal government to cut off the sources of funds for the terrorist group to end the insurgency in the northeast. The UN report blamed the cash economy as a major factor responsible for the activities of Boko Haram and other terrorist groups in the Lake Chad Basin. The report also covered the abduction of some students of the Government Girls' College in Dapchi, Yobe State by the insurgents in February. It said, quote, 111 schoolgirls from the town of Dapchi were kidnapped on February the 18th, 2018 and released by a swap on March the 21st, 2018, allegedly in exchange for a large sum, end of quote. This disclosure is contained in the 22nd report of the Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team pursuant to Resolution 2367 concerning Islamic State in Iraq, Al-Qaeda and associated individuals and entities. Meanwhile, the federal government has faltered the report, insisting that no dime was paid to rescue the Dapchi girls. Now, the announcement by the National Economic Council, that's the Executive Council, about the decentralization of the Nigerian police is an indication that the federal government is taking the right steps towards providing adequate security for Nigerians. Many believe this will fill the adequate gap and the inadequate gap of the present number of police personnel in relation to the population. In this report, our correspondent Orelua Shonibare examines what this means for the nation's security and democracy.
decided to do is to work on certain methods. For example, the council decided that a committee would be set up with representation from each political zone to be chaired by the Inspector General of Police, so that we'll find ways of decentralizing police operations.
The National Security Advisor, Babagana Monguno, announcing the decision of the federal government to decentralize the police. About time, many would say. The clamor for this has been on for some time, and looking at the number of adequately policed states coming to just 8 out of 36, there was bound to be a breakdown somewhere. And indeed there was. Public trust dwindled, with reports of police brutality and bribery making headlines almost on a daily basis. And with the recent protests against the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS, the writing was on the wall.
All right, now let's get a bit more perspective on the restructuring of the police. And joining me live from Abuja is a retired military officer and security consultant, Major General Cecil Esekaibe. Thanks for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you, Jama.
All right, let's move on now. I mean, a few days ago, the order was for SARS to collapse under the federal SARS. And now we have a plan to decentralize the police. How do you match these two sets of reforms?
Well, it's a welcome development. You don't know why we have to overcome the neophobia, the problem of doing the new thing. It is very clear that the structure of the police, as bequeathed to us by the United Kingdom, needs overhauling because they are overburdened, and over-centralizing the system made it easy. It became very difficult for community policing, state policing, as informations are not readily, processed to get the intelligence you need, and local programs for local solutions. So it's a welcome development for the police to be decentralized. But again, it depends, because they have not given us details, whether it is vertical or horizontal decentralization. By that I mean, if it is on jurisdiction basis, where you have different organizations like the one for criminal investigation, for traffic department, and so on and so forth. Or it's interlevels, like local government, state, and the federal structure. So when we get the details of the decentralization, we'll be able to know where we're heading to. But my concern there is, I don't know why the IG will head it, because the IG should have actually been the main resource person for such an effort.
Well, I know you did say we don't have the details, and indeed the IG is heading that committee to come up with a structure for this decentralization. But do you think that state policing should make the list of recommendations? I know that has been something that many people have been calling for. So do you think that's going to come on board at this time, since there's now an agreement that we do need to decentralize the police force?
It should be. It is not the SARS organization that is a problem. It's the processes, the organizational structure, and the modus operandi of the operations. So SARS as an entity shouldn't be a problem, but if it is well manned and the operational definitions are clear and their mandate are also very specific, there shouldn't be a problem like SARS. But like you said, it's going to be holistic.
Well, my initial question to you was, having the SARS in the state collapse to the federal, and now we see the police being decentralized. So my initial question, which I don't know whether you got, was how we're going to match those two sets of reforms, whether we're looking at a total overhaul, or what the plan is.
The SARS in the states are also be controlled at the center. So that is the nexus of the whole thing. Whether they are in states or not, they are being controlled at the headquarters. That is why there need to be decentralization. So if they are state police and they want to operate the way SARS is operating at the federal level, it's different. Well, let's look at what it's supposed to do and what they are doing now.
Okay, let's go to another aspect. Coordination among security agencies is another major issue. Each time we analyze security, we hear, there are overlapping functions and security agencies need to work together. So is there a plan in that for this new structuring,
Certainly. Interagency cooperation is actually the panacea for an effective performance. and it's been lacking in many instances where security agencies are competing for attentions and the needed corporations are not there. So interagency cooperation is going to be key in this new process.
Yes, but the how of that has always been the issue. I mean, if you look at the current UN report talking about terrorism, another aspect of our security that we need to do something about, that report identifies ways in which it makes it a bit easy for terrorists to infiltrate, like Boko Haram, etc., because of our cash economy. So we keep saying we need to do it, we need to do it. Now that we're at the point where we need recommendations, what do you recommend by way of a framework for reforms?
The issue of cash-driven terrorism is not new. That's what happens all over the world where terrorism holds sway. What I recommend here is that there should be a central coordinated system that will coordinate the intelligence gathering of the agencies. They'll centrally process them so that there will be no diversionary tactics. For instance, if the various security agencies are under a central organ like the National Security Advisor, for instance, if it's to coordinate the various security agencies and their intelligence gathering, then we'll have a central cell where these informations can be processed, and you have a very solid product for decision making.
All right, and how vital do you think this is, in terms of addressing the security concerns in the country, seeing that the elections are coming, and we do hear that the police is overstretched, we hear the army is overstretched. How quickly can we see this restructuring happen?
Well, they have just come out, and I expect a blueprint to come out as quickly as possible, and the committee actually set up to get into operation. It should not be a problem if the political will is there. I mean, within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we should be able to come out with processes and the procedures on how to get it going.
All right, retired military officer and security consultant, Major General Cecil Esekaigbe, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10 tonight.